Very well. I'm ready.
I like that. I like that. Yes, for my viewers who just joined, my guest today is Yusuf Abubakar. He's an actor of many books, an administrator, a researcher, and a university lecturer. He has written extensively on issues related to countering violent extremism and critical thinking skills. That area is the area I'm very much interested in. Critical thinking skills. And in your name, you have written 3 books. Am I right?
You're right.
Okay. And among those books, we want to look at the one you authored, Maiduguri. The city. Am I right? Maiduguri, the
A
city of
broken city.
the broken city. Yeah. Please, in few words, can you tell us why the choice of that title?
A broken Maiduguri, a broken city.
Hmm.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for having me on your platform. And I must say, it's an honor to be on your platform.
Welcome.
Talking about the book, Maiduguri, a broken city. If you observe very
Not about
clearly,
the
both.
title, not about the book, the title, not about the book yet. Title.
Yes, the title. That's what I'm trying to explain. There is no way I'm going to be explaining about the title without giving a few words about the name Maiduguri. But to keep it short, the name Maiduguri means something that is beautiful. It means a land of 1,000 kings. So if a land that has such noble men, what you expect from such a land is nobility, isn't it?
Okay,
Now,
right.
yeah, so with the kind of insurgency we're experiencing there and the bloodshedding going on in that place, um, the only thing that could come to mind is just to say that that city is broken because
Wow.
a land that supposedly is made up of noble men, kings and princes and the rest, and that land automatically overnight started becoming a battlefield for killing of innocent women and children. Um, you will be heartbroken to know that, and that's what informed the choice of the word Maiduguri, a broken city.
That's what informed the choice of the title.
The title, I mean, the title.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Now,
Yeah.
the Maiduguri A Broken City has a range of fiction to it. However, it is a non-fiction, one that gives an explicit account of the insurgency in the town. How did you come up with this write-off, fiction and non-fiction?
Okay. Talking about insurgency is highly sensitive in
Exactly.
this part of the world, and
Most people don't want to talk
apart,
about that.
a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And not only that, um, we also know that it attracts. You might be putting yourself on the spotlight by the time you start talking about the insurgency. Not only that, all the narrative that concerns the insurgency are all bad news. Of course, you don't expect any good news from such a place. And I felt that the narrative was also helping to propagate the cause of the insurgents. So I felt there was the need to tell another historical perspective that is a little bit different from what's been flying around. And that happened to be to advocate the beauty of the city of Maiduguri from historical perspective, and now trying to link it up with the realities on ground and giving the reader the option of trying to do a comparative analysis and saying, where do we go from here? Do we continue with the bloodshedding, or do we try to restore Maiduguri back to its past glory. So for you to achieve that, there was the need to combine both fiction and non-fiction style to be able to achieve that. So while the book in itself is a research material, I thought that it should also be, it should also have some literary input for relaxation, so that people will look at the issues at hand in retrospect and be able to reflect and engage themselves in critical thinking on how to resolve or solve the problems at hand. Because the problems at hand are not entirely political. There are also other drivers of the insurgency that bears on family in itself. And when we're talking about family, the family is a primary unit of the society. And once the family fails, then an aggregate of family that has failed tells you that the entire society is almost failing or has in itself failed. So those are some of the things I put together in writing the book Maiduguri, A Broken City. Thank you.
That's a wonderful one. Now, your narrative position of the town Maiduguri starts off from historical accounts of a rich town. Now, my question is this. This origin of a great town that you painted in your book, did it play any role in these terror activities that the state is experiencing now, that is happening in the town?
Okay, no, not really. Like I told you, I try to bring satire. It's rather brought in a satirical question in the narrative of the book. What it tries to do is to highlight the rich culture of Maiduguri. If you see the cover, thanks to my publisher for giving me such a brilliant cover. If you see the cover, you see that Maiduguri is traditionally known for making robes, royal robes, and the people themselves are also traditionally known for making royal robes and hats to blend it. So what happened was that along the line, it brought a rhetorical question to bear. Like, is this saying something like, is this Maiduguri? Looking at what is happening, is this actually Maiduguri? Or taking your mind back to what this town used to be. As a matter of fact, Islam came to Maiduguri long before the Usman Fodio jihad. A lot of us don't know about that. Yes, what we have in our historical books is that the Usman Fodio jihad brought Islam to Nigeria. That is not true. Yes, the Kanuris were already practicing Islam in Maiduguri before the Usman Fodio jihad. So you will see that the jihadist movement that took place was able to conquer many parts of the north, but not Maiduguri. Maiduguri was not part of it. You understand? So that tells you they already have international trade in place. They had contacts with people in Sudan, in Chad, in Niger, you know, up to down to Senegal. So when these people come down to Maiduguri to trade, they were marveled at the royalty of the display of royalty in the town. Then we didn't have the kind of cotton that we have today, where every one of us can easily change our wares and all that. What you are wearing today is not what you are going to wear tomorrow and all that. So the only people that can change their wares, their clothes, their robes, back in the time I'm talking about, were royalties. But when you come to Maiduguri, you are marveled at the number of people who are well dressed, wearing beautiful robes and clothes. So that was how it was the strangers that gave the town the name Maiduguri, which means the land of 1,000 kings. So of course you cannot have 1,000 kings in a land. It is just a symbolism saying that almost everybody in that town was looking like a king. And not only that, they were all educated, most of them were educated in Islamic literature, in Islamic religion, in the Quran and other aspects of Islam. So you expect that a town of that nature with high quality human beings is now the town that is littering with almajiri, with so high level of ignorance and the rest. Then you start wondering what went wrong. And that is what Maiduguri, the broken city, is trying to interrogate, asking rhetorically, what has gone wrong? Where have we gotten it wrong? What happened along the line? Those are the questions that comes to the bear.
Now, in your explanation, you said that it was the visitors that gave the name Maiduguri. So, who were the original Maiduguri people?
The Kanuris. The Kanuris are the original inhabitants of the place.
Are they from the north or south part of Maiduguri? What part of Maiduguri are they from, the Kanuris?
They are spread across. They are not people. If you also go into, because the book is not meant to be a historical book on Maiduguri. So what I tried to do was to try and give a brief historical account, and also left reference materials for those who will want to dig further into Maiduguri. But for the purpose of this conversation, you will notice that while I was talking about Maiduguri, I limited myself to manage the objective of the study. Now, the people of Maiduguri were centrally located in the eastern part of the northeast, that is the northeast area, and they were majorly known as the Kanuris. They are part of the Kanem Borno Empire. And Kanem Borno Empire was an expanded empire that went as far as Niger and Chad. You understand? The Kanuris expanded themselves up to that empire. You understand? So the strangers, they engage in trade, different forms of trade. So when the strangers come, of course, you know, while you're trading, there is a likelihood for what we call cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is a sociological term where people try to assimilate each other's culture for the purpose of mutual understanding. So when the stranger comes, many of them may settle down and all that. So that's how they developed or adopted that name, Maiduguri, and started referring to, okay, maybe you might be asked, where are you going to? You say, I'm going to Maiduguri. So what it means is that you're going to that town where everybody looks like a king.
Oh, wow, that's nice. That's nice. Now, earlier you said about the Islam actually came to Maiduguri before the Usman Dan Fodio. Am I right?
That what?
You said that Islam came to Maiduguri before the Usman Dan Fodio came. Like,
yes, you're very right. You're right.
Now, it would seem that the Boko Haram insurgency hide under Islam to perpetrate all this evil that is going on in Maiduguri. Now, how do we distinguish this terrorism and the Islam, the religion of Islam? Because a lot of people confuse the two.
Yeah, thank you. That is also another very important topic that a lot of scholars have engaged in, and myself particularly, I've written about the question you've just asked in different forums. I've also spoken about it. Basically, after 9/11, you will observe that many Western narrative started linking Islam with terrorism, and it became Muslims were now being profiled, especially in Western societies, and it also got to our own society. For instance, when you see someone wearing long beards and the trousers are just somewhere around the ankles and all that, something starts running into your head and all that. As a matter of fact, it was the work of the media, the Western media, that actually did all of that. So a lot of Muslim scholars, a lot of Islamic scholars have been trying to debunk that argument. But that's not saying that there is no religious undertone in some of these things. what happened is that you have people who perpetuate terrorism I call them people who perpetuate terrorism under the banner of Islam. They use Islam to justify their action and also use Islam to mobilize support. And this is what it means. The religion of Islam is a religion that has very powerful followership. It has very, very powerful followership. So not only that, there is a thin line between the religion itself and politics, because the politics is also found inside the religion. So what some Muslims do is to hide under the cloak of Islam to pursue their own personal agenda and give it the coloration of trying to promote the Islamic agenda. And that in itself has placed Islam in bad light before the public glare. What is important is for some of us to engage engage and interrogate some of the argument that is being posited by some of these scholars. So, for instance, we've had situations where Boko Haram killed Muslims. As a matter of fact, I can tell you authoritatively that they've killed more Muslims than Christians. So, would you now say they are actually pursuing an Islamic agenda?
Will I agree to that they actually have killed more Muslims than more Christians?
Yes, I am telling you, I am not here to come and make any unfounded argument. I am telling most of the people that have been, because this thing is taking place in the north, and the significant or the major population in the north, even though I know that we have pockets of Christians and the rest, but the major population in the north are Muslims. And who are the victims? Who are those who are staying in the IDPs, in the IDPs? You understand? Who are the refugees in our international boundaries? Go and find out. If you've ever had the opportunity of visiting those places, most of them are Muslims.
It's okay. Now you talk about some of them hiding under the Islam to perpetuate their evil. Now another question is this: you still some of them who hide under the Islam to reprogram the mind of the young Muslims. What do you have to say about this? Because they come in the way that they want to teach them Islam, they want to teach them to become good Muslims, but indirectly they are teaching them different things.
Yes. What we are talking about is what we call violent extremism. So what happens is that they radicalize a lot of unsuspecting young Muslims, and that's why we have what we call the pull and push factors. When you are studying violent extremism or preventing and countering violent extremism, there are pull and push factors you have to put into consideration. When we're looking at some of the push factors, you will discover that poverty, people generally are increasingly seeking for self-actualization. So, in the state of hopelessness and not just hopelessness, in the state of poverty and not being cared for by any government, you will find solace in someone who now comes to give you the hope of redemption of some sort. And that is how or why many of them choose to listen to those people. It's just, let me give you a typical example. If you are a parent and you are not communicating with your children properly for them to know the right and the wrong, let me be very honest with you. Somebody outside will communicate with them very well and teach them the wrong things that they are not supposed to learn. So it's same with governance. When governance refuse to take its own responsibility and take care of its own people and educate its own people and communicate with its own people, then some other non-state actors such as Boko Haram we do the job for government, and at the end, these people will now become the foot soldiers to fight government. Simple as that.
Thank you very much. It's like we are actually driven away from your group because we are here for your group, not for that. Now, in your group, we encounter where you talked about your cousin. Now, my question is your cousin unfortunate encounter with the military that has happened to any other person. How does one avoid insurgency? So as not to fall prey to the situation of mistake identity or affiliation?
Yes, my cousin is one of the thousands of people who went through a very sad ordeal in the hands of the military. And it's one of the things that is called the collateral damage when you find yourself in this kind of situation. But unfortunately, the reason why I put that aspect is because it is very important for us to hold people accountable when we are engaged in warfare. You understand? Yeah. We have a conventional military that it's supposed to be answerable and accountable to its own people, that it's supposed to protect the lives and properties of its own people. So, in several occasions, the media, journalists, and other scholars have been calling and advocating that there have been situations where the military have actually caused more damage than helping the situation in the Northeast. As a matter of fact, even the governor himself, Governor Zulum, if you read the book very well, he made mention of something like that. So the whole idea is not to criticize our military, but to draw attention of the government, to let the government know that things like this happen, and we should create a window in which we'll be addressing this kind of situations. Something like a monitoring team that will be supervising what these people are doing. And I can assure you that that is already in place. There is a human rights desk office in the Northeast established by the armed forces to address issues like this, where people go and lay complaints concerning some of the high-handedness of troops at the ground. So it also shows that the government is also listening to the yearnings and aspirations of the people. And I may not be able to say in this conversation that it is completely curtailed, but it is what they have done is the right step at the right direction. What we need to hear more is the activities of the Human Rights Desk Office, so that people will be given assurance and confidence and trust in what is going on in the Northeast. Thank you.
Now, indirectly, the human desk we talked about, it means that people should get involved. People should be aware of what is happening around them, even insurgency. Now, my question, how is that possible when we live in a society where insurgency is a no-go area? Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to say anything about it. It's like it's a closed arena. So how do they come in and get involved so that they can even make complaints?
So what the way people will it's not a no-go area. Nobody is stopping you. It's just the stereotypes. In our mind, we just feel that it's a no-go area, but that's not true. We make so many very clumsy and quick assumptions that are not right. Security is the business of everybody. It is not just the armed forces that should be involved. And if you look at the national strategy established by the government, it is a whole of society approach that is being adopted in the fight against insurgency. The National Orientation Agency is involved. Me and you, we are supposed to be involved. See something, say something. Is that not the slogan? See something, say something. And that's exactly what my book has done. My own little experience, Can I
say something? Yes, that's what it is. What is what the slogan is. But you and I will agree that a lot of people have seen something and they've said something, and they are no longer there to tell their story. This is Nigeria.
Yeah, I agree. It is it is work in progress. It is not a perfect society. It's an evolving society. We are engaged in nation building process. There have been a lot of things that have not been going well in our. As a matter of fact, we have no business with insurgency in this country if everything were going well. It's unfortunately we found ourselves in this very, very precarious situation, and it is obligated upon each and every one of us, myself and yourself, to see how we are going to keep the narrative to be positive and give people the reasons why they should remain committed to the nation building process. That is my own position about this. A lot of people have been, yes?
Now, since you said it is the business of everyone, do you think insurgency, terrorism should be taught in our schools?
Already in the university, because I'm also a university lecturer. I teach in one of the universities in Abuja here. I teach crime, safety, and society. It's one of the courses in intelligence and global security studies. I also teach transnational crimes and organized crimes in international relations as well. And I try as much as possible to bring in issues of terrorism, insurgency, organized crime, human trafficking. These are all contemporary crimes that are happening in our very eyes. It's not utopia. These are things, and unfortunately, I happen to have a field experience concerning some of these things. I've had the opportunity of going to the field, carrying out research as regard to this. And so I teach it, and I strongly believe that we should also teach it in our school, but we should be very careful. What happened is that the narrative shouldn't be a negative narrative, and that is what my book tried to do, Maiduguri, a Broken City. We should start developing poetry, not only poetry, literary books that is going to project good image about some of the things that are happening in our country, some of the good things that our armed forces is doing, and the security sector. It's not supposed to be the bad things all the way, because when we continue to propagate only the bad aspects of what government have not done, we are poisoning the minds of the young people to believe that there is nothing good about this country. I strongly believe that there are a few things that the government have done right. They may not have been able to accomplish the task before them, but there are some things that they've done right. So if we engage in strategic communication, we should now start advocating those good things that they've done right and sell it to the younger people and let them look at how they can build on what the government have done to bring and build a better society.
That's a wonderful one. Now, most times in this part of the world, whenever an act of insurgency takes place, there was like, they are outsiders, they're non-Nigerians. You know, a lot of people have been wondering, is our borders that porous, that outsiders come into this country, do things neatly, and you know, but they are not apprehended. What do you have to say about that?
Honestly, you just hit the nail on the head. One of the biggest challenges this country is facing today is the porous border. And the reason is because of the cultural affinity that exists along the border lines. So let's start from the south, around the Republic of Benin area. The people in the both communities, both on the Nigerian side and the Benin side, they are all the same people. How do you differentiate them? Let's not forget the fact that these borders are artificial creations of the Europeans during the scrambling for Africa. So, but we've not been able to take advantage of this, of our diversity, and build these border communities, because most of these border communities are neglected, and it is around these border communities that you find what we categorize as ungoverned spaces. You do not have significant government presence in these border communities. So, of course, what do you expect when you don't have government presence there? You only expect non-state actors, violent non-state actors, to start administering and dispensing justice in their own way around and within those border communities. And it becomes a safe haven for all manners of criminalities and criminals. So that is what is happening around our border communities. Up north, the same thing, the border town between Niger and Nigeria, that's the same thing. You find smuggling activities taking place in all of those places. These people don't see themselves as committing crimes. They feel that they are doing their daily businesses because the government in itself have failed in its own responsibility.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I can hear you.
okay, so already there is the National Boundary Commission. There is also Border Security Commissions established by government to address some of these security threats around the border communities. I expect with the national identity card that we have adopted, that is ongoing, I expect at a time that we are going to create a situation where we are going to integrate the data we have and use it, give it to the immigration services and the custom services and all the security agencies that are mounting our borders for us to be able to check on unwarranted persons that will be coming or crossing our borders. So that will give us a way of identifying non-Nigerians that have access to our country, and if they do not have the permit to be here, then the law will take its course.
So from your explanation, you quite agree that most of the perpetrators of this insurgency are actually outsiders.
Of course, I agree. A significant number of the insurgents are non-Nigerians who connive with also Nigerians to perpetrate the criminalities.
It's okay, you've been a writer, but this Maiduguri, a broken city. I don't know why I'm so much in love with this. The way you captured it, Maiduguri, a broken city. You know, the emotional attached to that name, Maiduguri, a broken city. How long did it take you to write this book? Because I know in Nigeria, in this part of the world, a lot of people want to write. But to write is the problem. They want to write, but then write is the problem. So how long did it take you to write this Maiduguri, a broken city?
It took me more than 5 years to put the materials together. It is not something that just came at once. In the course of carrying out, if you read the preface of the book, you will, the acknowledgement or so, you will see that in 2017, 2016, I worked with the U.S. Embassy, NERI, Northeast Regional Initiative, and some other Americans. We were doing a number of projects in the Northeast, training young people and all that. So in the course of doing that, I was gathering my materials, interviewing young people, talking to them and the rest. And I was facilitators to a number of workshops that took place in that area, that culminated to a grand workshop that took place in Abuja by 2019, just shortly before the COVID. So by the time the COVID was approaching, the COVID gave me the opportunity to now synchronize all these materials that eventually came to what we have now in the book form called Maiduguri, a Broken City.
And how has the reception of the book been since then?
How?
The reception of the book, since its reception.
The reception, so far outside the country, it's been so wonderful. The sales has been very, very high, and I've received calls from people abroad, the United States of America, in the UK, wanting to ask me some engaging questions concerning some of my assertion and claims in the book. It's also been very encouraging, but within Nigeria, I have not found that level of readership in Nigeria because, of course, you know, our reading culture is very, very low. Even as a lecturer, I tell my students about the books, and they've not shown much enthusiasm to wanting to buy the book. As a matter of fact, I do give free copies to some students. In fact, I was surprised, a student that I gave a copy of the book, I found it in the waste bin. So, yes, I found it in the waste bin, a student. So I had to call this. Yes, that it tells you our culture, who we are, and that is why some of these social malaise are increasing in our society, because ignorance is what, no,
We're not growing mentally. Yeah.
Yes, we're not. So I am so surprised that the curiosity about Maiduguri is coming from outside the country. So there was this guy who called me from a place known as Brunei. I don't know whether you've heard of Brunei. Brunei is in Southeast Asia. It's a small island in Southeast Asia, very small, with less than 350 population.
Wow.
And the guy has been, yes, he said he's been hearing about the insurgency in Maiduguri, but it was the first time he was hearing something beautiful about the country, Maiduguri. And he dwelled only on the land of the 1,000 kings. That was the area he dwelled on. Like I told you, we need to change this narrative. It shouldn't just be that Boko Haram killed this, Boko Haram killed that, Boko Haram killed the other one. We should also change it and start telling good stories about the place. Yes.
But like you said, that was the work of the Western media.
Of course, not only the work of the Western people, also some of our own journalists are also advocating it. So we should change it. We should start. How many people are talking about what Governor Zulum is doing? Governor Zulum is doing so much in that place right now. As a matter of fact, he has changed the entire narrative, but you don't see it on the media. You don't hear people talking about those things.
That's why we have somebody like you. Now, this book, how is the publicity? You know, people like you. I know lecturers. They don't pay money for publicity. They don't go out there to get the publicity that they actually need. Am I right or wrong?
Well, you're right. You need
to give this book good publicity in Nigeria, because a lot of Nigeria really needs to see. Because if you did not tell me this about Maiduguri, I wouldn't know. Well, I visited Maiduguri once when I was in secondary school, and I love the town. I went to buy fish. I bought fish.
Beautiful. Baga. In a town they call Baga. Yes. All right.
Well,
thank you very much.
It's been wonderful speaking with you.